Eddie Brock has found out how to control his time travel and is using it to try and take over Bedlam, a different version of Eddie Brock through the timeline. He's using this to gain enough power to finally conquer all of the Venoms at the end of time. Today we're looking at issues 21 and 22 of Venom 2023. Eddie looks up at the massive past version of himself. There's only one way out of here, Bedlam. It's in chains! Bedlam snorts at him. Chains! Soft, Brock! You're leaving in a coffin! Closed casket! The two leap at each other, trading blows, but Bedlam grabs Eddie by the head, slamming him into the counter. After 3 times, Eddie grabs a hold of the counter, wheeling it around, swinging it hard, and cracking Bedlam across the face. The monster stumbles, and Eddie hits him in the gut, surprised to find a semi-auto shotgun taped under the counter. Huh? Let me try something, Eddie says as he slams the counter into Bedlam's stomach again, and then he fires the shotgun 4 more times into the monster. Well, that was fun, Eddie says as he tosses the counter and shotgun away. But Bedlam merely stands up, a hole in his stomach, forming into a massive mouth. Now this is the fun part. Open wide, he says as the new mouth bites down on Eddie's whole body and begins to chew. Tough outer shell, going center. All the better to chew you up and spit you out, Bedlam says, spitting out the massively chewed mass of Eddie's body. This massive chewed up Eddie lands outside with a wet splat, and the bikers vomit in pure disgust. But moments later, Eddie begins to reform his body, making sure all the organs are in the right spot before Bedlam comes charging out after him again. All right, time for round 2, Eddie whispers. I'm the real Eddie Brock! You are a mistake from a dead timeline! Bedlam roars, but Eddie leaps over his head. We're all mistakes, big man! Thing is, I'm the mistake that's got the body. He lashes out with the nerve endings of his body, attaching them to Bedlam's head, allowing him to slip his consciousness into the monster's mind. Open your mind, Bedlam! I'm coming in! Eddie tells him, charging into the vast emptiness of Bedlam's uncluttered mind, where he fights against a massive version of the monster. But Eddie explains that this past version of himself is merely all of Eddie's rage, that he doesn't even have a body of his own. Finally, Eddie ends up in the deepest parts of Bedlam's mind, where he faces a past version of himself with the Venom symbiote. But Eddie informs his past self that he is just the muscle-bound bully that Eddie used to be, the one that was addicted to his own anger, that took it out on people. As the past Eddie turns into Venom, it launches itself forward, with Eddie grabbing him by the chest, ripping him apart, revealing the truth to his alternate version to himself. You're an empty suit, Bedlam, a costume. Without me, you're not even real, he says as he lets the symbiote fall to the floor, where it begins to wither and die. Without me, you're nothing at all, Eddie tells the dying symbiote. It begs for his help, and Eddie reaches a hand out to it. Together, we can be venomous. As long as you remember one thing, Bedlam, I'm in charge, Eddie says as the symbiote begins to crawl up his arm and bond with him. The two take on the persona of a 4-armed red Venom. And in the real world, the new Eddie stands tall, making the bikers all back up in fear. Anyway, now that that's settled, let's go see a man about a time machine. We now cut to a different time period. 1942. Flexo stares at his stasis pod as the scientists work, talking about how they have to freeze Flexo since he's disobeying orders and wiped out an entire German-held village. He killed a bunch of Nazis, one of the scientists says, but his friend points out that it was the wrong village and no one wants a weapon that doesn't listen. What we delivered was a monster that no one else can control, the scientist says. But their conversation is drowned out as the stasis pod begins to fill up and Flexo goes into a slumber. Decades later, Venom, but Dylan as Venom's battle with the Gold Goblin has damaged the liquid nitrogen lines, and Flexo has awoken, punching his way free of the tube, a single name escaping his lips. Eddie, Flexo gasps. Meanwhile, Dylan and Venom are leaping through the city, with Venom questioning why Dylan allowed Norman Osborn to live. Because we know it wasn't him you wanted to kill, so say the name, Venom says in Dylan's mind. Fine, you want a name? I want to kill Eddie Brock, my father, Dylan snaps as he lashes out, kicking a water tower. They continue to move through the city, with Dylan admitting that he wants to stop his father and any other King in Black in history, and that he wants to free the symbiotes from the King's control. But the conversation is interrupted by screams from below. "Help! Monster!" someone shouts, and the pair turn to look down into the streets where the police have cornered the monster known as Flexo. "It's not just a monster. I smell a Clintar," Venom says, and Dylan looks down at Flexo, who's standing quietly while the police aim their guns at him. "Could be a new recruit," Venom notes, and Dylan agrees and has an idea. He leaps down, and Venom takes on the look of one of Tony Stark's armor. "Don't worry, folks. Iron Man's here in the new Mark 123 organic metal armor. It's the future! Tony Stark, that's me," Dylan says, giving his best Tony Stark impression. He looks at Flexo holding out a hand. "So that's who I am! Who are you?" he asks, and Flexo's eyes glow as he stares at the metal man. "Metal face," he whispers, remembering the day in 1942 when he wiped out the entire village of German soldiers. Someone floated over to him, speaking to him. "Let Brock battle his future. Let him beat his own destiny into submission. Let him, even if he has won, he will learn that destiny does not battle me. Time and destiny do my will, as will you, Flexo." Flexo launches himself at Dylan and Venom, punching them hard, barely allowing time for Dylan to throw up a shield. He then turns his repulsor cannons onto Flexo, but it hits him with a blast of symbiote goo that knocks him into the wall. Dylan steps through the hole, and the symbiote shifts so that Venom looks normal. "Metal face?" Flexo asks, but Dylan shakes his head. "No, Venom face. Who did you think I was?" Flexo gets to his feet. "Eddie," he whispers, more images of his past appearing in his mind, of being put into stasis and a four-armed symbiote shouting at him. "You're a symbiote, so you work for me," the four-armed symbiote shouts. "Eddie Brock," Flexo says, rushing forward, hitting Venom again. But Venom lashes out, knocking him away. "I think he thinks that we're my dad. We gotta try and contain him somehow, work out what his deal is," Dylan says to Venom. But Flexo's arm morphs into a Gatling gun and he fires symbiote bullets at Venom, hitting him hard and knocking him to the ground. "Okay, so he's got a gun," Dylan groans from the ground. But his arm morphs into a blade as Flexo rushes at him and Dylan stabs the monster in the chest. "Meet All Black Chainbreaker!" Dylan shouts in Venom's voice, Flexo falling to the ground and the memories beginning to fade from his mind. "Not Eddie," Flexo whispers, and Dylan nods as he pulls the blade from the symbiote monster's chest. "It's Dylan. Dylan Brock. And I'm sorry I didn't think of that earlier," Dylan says as he leans over Flexo. "Why else would I have been mad at my dad? You wanted to be free of the hive," Dylan says, helping Flexo to his feet, knowing that they can't head back outside. So he leads Flexo down into the sewers so that the two of them can escape. "It's okay. You can stay with me for now, until they stop hunting you. After that, we'll figure some stuff out. We got time," Dylan tells him as the two escape into the darkness. But memories continue to flash through Flexo's mind of a voice floating over him in the village in 1949. "Do not resist. Simply remember, who broke your destiny? What is his name? Eddie Brock, the King in Black. The time is right, and you will be the hand of my vengeance against him, against Venom. And his own son will be your weapon," Dr. Doom says as he floats over Flexo. This very confusing Venom storyline is still going. So I hope you guys are enjoying it, because we're going to keep doing it here, and once it's all done, it's going to be floated over to our other channels. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I'll see you next time right here.